So on the 17th of February 1942, Darwin, just over there, was bombed by the Japanese. They saw it as a strategic military base in Australia, so they bombed it with about roughly 242 bombers. Most of them were launched from air, though some of them were launched from 4 aircraft carriers in the vicinity, but a lot of them were launched from land, from over in Java, where Jakarta is in Indonesia, because they'd occupied that part of the land. But this is basically our version of Pearl Harbour, as most people will say. It's the Australian version of Pearl Harbour. They didn't just bomb Darwin, they bombed Broome, I think Port Hedland. There's a few other towns around Northern Territory and Western Australia, like North Western Australia, Northern Territory, that they also bombed. And supposedly they were going to invade, but they were spread too thin, too far, so they never ended up invading. Some people fishing over there. Wonder what they're fishing for. Barra, maybe? These are all the people that died in the defence of Darwin, also Australia. A lot of them died on HMAS Swan. What else we got? I saw another boat before. HMAS Koala. Yeah, so a lot of them died in World War II. A lot of them in 1942. Yeah, so they all either died in Darwin or on various boats and operations sort of to do with World War II. It's a whole wall of plaques, goes all the way around. Sort of reminds me when I was in Singapore, except these are just plaques, not graves. But yeah, they're all Aussies. Most of them are soldiers, privates, seamen. Haha, everyone's gonna laugh. Disputed amongst historians as to whether Japan would have invaded Australia or not. A lot of people say they wouldn't have, because after they bombed the top ends, they bombed Darwin, Broome, Port Hedland, and various other cities in Northern Australia, they didn't invade. Supposedly it was a deterrent because Australia was involved in the Pacific War, mainly in Papua New Guinea and Java, Indonesia, and other island nations around Australia, and Japan just didn't want us involved in the war, so they were trying to deter us from continuing our participation in the Pacific War. Plaques continue here. There's more of them. Here we got here. Pilot Officer Buckland Arthur K. There's a bunch of them. Some of them on the same plaque. During the bombing of Darwin, 188 planes were launched by the Japanese, which went across Darwin, and the harbour was full of ships and bombed. 8 ships were sunk, including a couple of military vessels. This is the old World War II oil tunnel underneath Darwin that they had to build when the Japanese bombed Darwin. They were afraid that they wouldn't be able to use oil, so they had to have an underground oil reservoir. So this is the pump room here, where I am now. This is where obviously that is the pipelines where the oil came in, and then we go further and further into the tunnel. Nice and cool in here. 35 ships in the harbour were badly damaged by bombs and machine gun fire. 30 aircraft were lost in total, with 9 out of 10 of the planes that were defending Darwin were shot down. 4 of the Japanese planes were lost, 2 Val bombers and 2 Zero fighters. Many of the military and civil facilities in Darwin were bombed and destroyed, including the airfield. During the 2 raids of the bombing of Darwin, 235 people were killed and a further 300 to 400 people were wounded. So the attack was split into 2 separate raids, where a total of 242 Japanese aircraft bombed Darwin.
To introduce the Prime Minister, the Honourable John.
It was actually built before World War II. I was mistaken. It was built quite early on, and they decommissioned it in 1915, but then they recommissioned it and used it again, and they had a diesel pump. It must be further along there that they ran. But yeah, they ran the oil into here, but they had lots of problems. They had oil leaking up, and obviously they had fumes coming out from the diesel generator or the diesel pump, and they had, asphyxiation, like people choking and hazards. And they also had one time where In 1955, the oil leaked out and seeped into the harbour. I'm so glad we have zebra crossings in Australia and people actually adhere to them. So many countries I've been to, mainly in Asia, they have them and people just drive straight through them and almost run you over. I don't know what they're supposed to mean over there. This is the cockpit of B-52 bomber. One of only 3 found outside the United States and the only one in the Southern Hemisphere. There you go, did not know it was here. So this caravan here is the cockpit of a B-24 bomber. That's a B-25 there, B-25 initial, it's a B-24 cockpit. It was in someone's collection in Busselton and they donated it to this museum. They tried to drive it up to Darwin, but they had many issues with the car overheating or whatever. You see it's in a caravan, well, they've turned it into a caravan. So basically they stored it in Perth and they stored it at the RAAF Pierce base. Then they put it on a Hercules and flew it to Darwin, and here it is, next to a B-25. Darwin branch, the Reserve Bank of Australia, and it was devastated by Cyclone Tracy, although they were able to rebuild the building. It wasn't too damaged and they kept a whole bunch of police officers in there who helped with assisting the damage from the cyclone. And then it was later turned into UN officers. It was closed in 1997 and turned into UN officers to help with East Timor, or Timor-Leste, where I've just been. And now it's a tourism building. So there you go, and I'm all saddled up because I'm flying back to Perth tonight. My flight's at 5:20 and I had to check out at 10 because I'm in the bloody commercial hostel, so I'm walking around with my bags. But anyway, it's a visitor centre now. Nice grounds right next to the Parliament House and the, what do you call it? The court. We have the heritage listed old town hall of Darwin. It was actually the Palmerston House, or Palmerston Town Hall, because Darwin was called Palmerston, even though there still is a place now called Palmerston City. Darwin was known as Palmerston until, I don't know, 19 something or 18 something. It was changed to Darwin. This is the old town hall, which over the years served many purposes. It was town hall, then the Navy was in here, and they had a car registry place in here as well. But obviously, as you can see, the ruins have been stabilised because it's heritage listed. However, it was badly damaged with Cyclone Tracy, so it stands here as a sort of remembrance of Cyclone Tracy. But yeah, as you can see, it's quite badly damaged. The Navy was in here for a number of years and they refused to give it up. They eventually did, but they built a new town hall. So just have a look around, and it's not really much to see really. Beautiful architecture. I love that sort of old colonial sort of brickwork. Very ornate. Don't know if you agree or not. Funny, it doesn't matter where I go in the world, I end up looking at ruins. Like Apelo, or whatever the name of the prison was in Timor. I was looking at, and now I'm here at the old town hall. The paving. There might be some plaques or something. Can't see anything really. And that behind it must be Parliament House and the Supreme Court, I think, or one of the courts. Yeah, that's it. Really? It's awesome. I'm a big man of gardens. Very fond of it. Stay curious, stay adventurous, and keep exploring.